Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our webinar, Class of 2022, How to Stand Out in Your Job Search. So perhaps you're a student who is graduating in the coming weeks or months. Perhaps you have children who are graduating, you support students who are graduating. This webinar will give you information about what the Class of 2022 is looking for and help you compare whether what your perspective and your opinions are align with that of your peers in that class. So we're going to talk about what's realistic. We're going to talk about compensation expectations. We're going to talk about the jobs market and the economy that you're entering into right now as you graduate. But before we begin, let me tell you a little bit about my company, LaSalle Network. So my name is Jessica Schaefer. I've been with LaSalle Network for almost 11 years and started actually when I was in your seat 11 years ago. So I graduated from college and didn't have a job, as you'll find, like many of our survey respondents that I'm going to share the data with you today. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I'd go into education, maybe I'd do journalism. I had a lot of different paths that I could take. But fast forward June, July, August, I didn't have a job and I had graduated in May. And one of my friends recommended I work with a staffing agency. And I had no idea what staffing agencies were or what they did. And that's where LaSalle came in. So think of a staffing agency like a matchmaker. We helped connect companies with candidates and candidates with great companies. And that's exactly what LaSalle did with me. But they connected me with them and them with me. And so again, 11 years later, I've been with LaSalle Network and I run our marketing and communications team. And so we're responsible for gathering all of the data that we're going to review today. Now, LaSalle Network is headquartered in Chicago, but we do business nationwide and we place people all across the country. We've been in business for more than 2 decades. And every year we help about 4,000 students who are graduating from college find their first job. We've been heralded as a best place to work, as you can see from the slide. And we specialize in a number of different areas. So we do temporary placement as well as direct hire search in a number of different verticals. Perhaps you have an accounting degree, a marketing degree, you want to get into sales. Those are all things that we can do. And so like I mentioned, we've got a lot to cover today and a lot of data. And I'm going to talk to you about the survey that we conducted in just a minute. But we're going to talk about the jobs market and what to expect as you're interviewing for positions. We're going to talk about the data that came back and what we heard the class of 2022 say they wanted in their first job, their first company. We're going to talk about how you can differentiate yourself because there are more people than there are job openings right now. And we're going to talk about interview tips and how to put your best foot forward. So let's dive into our data. This is the 7th year that we've conducted this survey. So every year we ask the same questions to the graduating class to better understand what's important to them. What are their motivators? And how has that changed year over year? And let me tell you, the class of 2022 is different, and we will talk to you about why. But in February, we conducted a survey of more than 2,500 students across the country. And all different majors, as you can see on your screen. A big chunk of our survey respondents were business majors, about 40%. 17% were in STEM, 10% in healthcare, so on and so forth. So we did have a diverse range of folks participating in our survey. And of those, people said were all across the board in the types of professions that they were targeting. So as you can see here, they could select any and all professions they were interested in. So you've got healthcare coming in as a top ranked profession, human resources, marketing and sales, which is very normal. We see that a lot every year. Communications, administrative positions, creative and design. All of these are trends that we typically see as students graduate. Now, again, we conducted this survey in February, so these numbers might look a little bit different now that we're reporting on them, but I guarantee you it's not that much different. So this year, the class of 2022, 80% were still looking for jobs at the time of this survey. Now that's in comparison to last year's data, where 91%, almost everybody, was still looking for a job at the time of the survey. So every year we conduct it in February. And every year there's a large portion of students who are still looking for jobs. And let me tell you, I'm not the anomaly, you're not the anomaly if you're still looking for your first position and you're being selective and you're vetting companies and vetting roles, or perhaps you haven't even had an interview yet. That is okay, that is normal. Take a breath, it will be fine, I promise you. There are plenty of job opportunities out there, and it's all about making sure that it's the right fit for you. So if you're sitting in the seat where you are unemployed, please know that is very normal, but it is time to really get aggressive in your search. And we're going to talk about that today. So let's talk a little bit about the market that you're graduating into. 2 years ago, I had the privilege of hosting our webinar for the class of 2020, the folks who graduated 2 months after the pandemic hit while we were all in lockdown. And let me tell you, the prospect of jobs for them was pretty slim. Now that is in stark contrast. 2 years later, how much can change? We are in a great jobs market right now, a great economy. Read the newspaper, listen to CNBC, watch Squawk Box, plug into the news. You'll hear everyone talking about the markets. You'll hear everyone talking about the jobs. And there are more than 11 million job openings today in the United States, just in the United States. And according to a study that we conducted in December of last year, 73% of businesses are hiring. That is a huge majority of organizations that are looking for talent. And they're looking for students who are coming out of college hungry and ready to work. Now could not be a better time to be graduating. So that same survey that said, almost 3/4 of companies are hiring. That same survey, those companies said that they're hiring for a bunch of different types of roles: customer service, accounting and finance, technology, marketing, sales. And a lot of this is an investment in those organizations. They expect growth. They're forecasting growth. So they're investing in more salespeople to sell their product or service. They are investing in more marketers to market their product or service. They're investing in customer service professionals so that when they do win that business, they have somebody who can service it well. They're investing in accounting and finance professionals to balance the books and to help with the incoming cash flow. And they're investing in technology to streamline and improve their products and services. All of these roles, all of these functions that you see these organizations hiring for are, again, a really good sign that the economy is really healthy and really strong. Now, what I'll tell you is what that means for you. So you might be able to be a little bit more selective than people who graduated in years past. I'm not saying be the pickiest person on the block. I'm not saying negotiate everything in your offer. What I'm saying is you should take the time to really vet the role and the organization and the people that you're going to be reporting to, because there are so many opportunities. And you need to think about what's important to you, which we'll talk about in a minute. What's important to you, and do you want to be at that place long-term to grow your career? Because if you do, then you better make sure it's the right place from the get-go. You don't want to be somebody who jumps companies every 18 months to 2 years. Okay. So, like I mentioned, it is not too late. If you waited to start your job search until January, February, March, April, perhaps even now, that is okay. It's not too late. Most students, the majority of students, started anywhere from 3 to 9 months before graduation. Now, again, what I'll tell you is most organizations don't start hiring recent college graduates until a little bit closer to graduation. There are huge corporations, the Big Four, for example, that invest heavily in internship programs and use that as pipeline for future hires and will extend offers 9 to 12 months before graduation. However, if you're targeting a smaller to mid-size organization, typically those companies hold out a little bit until closer to graduation to start recruiting for those roles. Okay, so again, If you're just starting or you only just started, it is not the end of the world. You're still in a good place. So, where should you be searching? How should you be conducting your job search? Now, I stumbled across a staffing firm because a friend recommended it. Both of my parents were teachers, and so they had no idea how to help me get into the business world. And I was fortunate that I leaned heavily on my network to help me find a job. And according to our survey respondents, networking and leveraging your personal network was the third most utilized job search tool. Okay, so hopefully you're like me and you're putting together your list and you're thinking through who you know and who works where. And again, no one's off limits. Everyone should know that you're job searching. Obviously, your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, but your friends, the parents of your friends, the siblings of your friends. You never know where an introduction could come from. So make sure you're talking to people and letting them know, hey, this is the type of organization I'm looking to break into. This is the type of role that's really attracted to me. This company is a place I really want to work at. Do you know anyone there? Leverage your personal network. And better yet, before you leave college, a plug for your alumni and career services departments, meet with them. There could be alumni who work at the organizations that you want to work at that can help you. At the very least, they'll do an informational interview and tell you more about the company and why they've enjoyed or not enjoyed working there. And it gives you a little bit more color commentary. Or perhaps there's alumni that are in the field that you want to break into. Again, they'll more than likely lend you an informational interview or 20 minutes of their time to learn more about their profession and whether it's the right fit for you, and quite frankly, whether you have the skills to get the exact position that you want right away. Okay, so leverage your personal network. Our survey respondents said that they were. Number 2 is career fairs. Now, I'm guessing most fairs have probably wrapped up by now, but there's probably more in the summer. There's definitely going to be alumni networking that you can take advantage of. There's other career fairs that might not be hosted by your college or university that you can attend. So don't be shy. Virtual career fairs, in-person career fairs, put yourself out there. Look the part if you're going to go, be prepared, have copies of your resume, get business cards from the people you meet. And if you're really interested in the organization or role, go after it, be aggressive. Do a follow-up call, a follow-up email to the person that you met with, explaining how you could benefit the business, explaining why you want to work for that organization. And then the number 1 tool that the class of 2022 has utilized in their job search are job boards. Now, this is not a surprise, and typically we see this number pretty high. Now, the key is, how do you make your resume stand out? Is it enough to have the same resume for every single job that you apply for? Perhaps you're like me. I was an English and Spanish major, and I went to a liberal arts school. And so really, there were a lot of different pathways I could have taken. Like I mentioned, I could have gone into education. I could have gone into journalism. I could have gone into marketing, communications, advertising, PR, a whole slew of pathways. Does that mean that I should use the same resume for a teaching job as for a journalism job, as for a marketing job? Probably not. I should look at my list of experiences, which hopefully you have, internships or jobs, pull out the pertinent skills to the positions I'm applying for, and cater my resume to match that job. Now, I'm not saying lie. Definitely do not do that. That will catch you in the end. But make sure you're using the language that somebody uses in the job in your resume, as long as it's true. Okay, what does that mean? Well, perhaps a position is looking for a specific content management system that you've used, a CMS. So you've used WordPress and you've used Squarespace. Make sure you put those names on your resume, because a lot of times hiring managers, they look at a resume for 7 seconds, and they're looking for specific things. They're looking for those keywords. They're looking for certain softwares or certain skill sets. And if they don't have them, they move on. Because like I mentioned, there are so many people who are looking for jobs right now. So make sure that your resume stands out, and then go one step further. It's not enough to apply on a job board. Find the contact information of the person that's hiring for that role and reach out to them. Send them a LinkedIn message, personalize it. I just applied for XYZ position and I am so excited about it. I have admired your company for years and I know I could benefit it. I would just love a chance to talk with you. That is what's going to set you apart. If you can get a hold of their email them. Maybe put together a project, maybe put together a pseudo cover letter. Do something that's going to make your application stand out, or at the very least, make them go back and take a second look at your resume. Now, there's a slew of other things you should be using in your job search. I say you cannot rely on just one. You should have an arsenal of tools that you're using as you search. I'm biased. I got my job through a staffing firm. I work for a staffing firm, but these are great resources that are entirely free for the candidates that they work with. So a recruiter will give you advice on your resume. They'll talk to you about the state of the jobs market. They'll level set your expectations, which may be too high or too low in terms of the types of roles you can get, the level of roles, compensation expectations, benefits. Day in and day out, these recruiters are meeting with candidates and companies, and they have a really good pulse on the market, and they are a free tool. So use them. Career services, like I mentioned, if you're still on campus, go set a meeting. They will review your resume. They'll do mock interviews with you. They'll connect you with alumni. They are such a wealth of knowledge, and not enough students take advantage of them. And then multiple job boards. Right? There's more job boards beyond Career Builder, Indeed, and Monster. LinkedIn has a job board. Perhaps you've seen it. Glassdoor has a job board. There's a lot of different avenues to find jobs. So we asked students if they'd received any job offers. So 80% at the time of the survey, 80% in February, were still looking for positions. But that doesn't mean that they hadn't received any offers. Right? 64% said, nope, I haven't received a single offer. But almost a quarter said they had received 1 to 2 job offers and chose not to take them. Perhaps you're thinking, yep, I'm in that boat. I love stories, I love anecdotes, it helps it sink in for me. When I graduated from college, I was offered a marketing position that was selling samples at Costco. And I thought, this is the first job offer I've gotten, and I should really take it because I need a job, but it's not what I'm passionate about, and it's not what I want to do. And so if you find yourself in a similar situation, it's okay. Look, at a quarter of your peers have turned down jobs, at least 1 to 2 job offers, because they're waiting for the right thing. Okay, so if you've gotten job offers, or perhaps you're in the process and you're receiving some offers, just keep that in mind. So the other thing is, what types of jobs are you looking at? Are you looking at full-time positions, part-time positions, perhaps an internship? Are you looking at temporary roles, only direct hire roles? The more open you are in your search, the more opportunities are going to come your way. So 93% of students said they're looking at full-time positions, but some are open to part-time, probably some who might be continuing their education, and almost 50% are open to a paid internship. I tell students all the time, it's okay not to jump into a permanent position right away, right after you graduate. It is okay to try before you buy. That is why students should have jobs and internships throughout their college career, because you need to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And perhaps you were one of those people who didn't have very many internships and job experiences in college. Make sure you use this time now to get some of that experience under your belt. Determine what you like, and more importantly, what you don't like, so you don't get into a situation, a culture, a role, whatever it might be, that you don't like. And again, you're leaving positions after 6, 12, 18 months. You don't want to be the person that hops around from different roles. You want to be the person that sticks. Now, temporary work is a great way to get this type of experience. It's a great way to try before you buy, or take a test drive of the car before you're buying it, but huge benefits to temporary roles. Now, the class of 2022 is open to temporary work. 63% said they would consider a temporary role. Again, why? What's in it for me? Not only do you get to test drive a company, a manager, a role, all of those things before you start it and are committed to it, but it also helps you build your skill set. So perhaps you don't have all of the exact specific qualifications that you need for a role. Well, a temporary position can help you build that. It can expose you to new softwares. It can help strengthen soft skills and hard skills that you can then take and put on your resume if you decide not to extend the contract, if you decide you don't want to take a job offer at the end, if it's temp to hire. There's a lot of opportunities. It also allows you to expand your network. So the people you're meeting on that temporary assignment are people that have friends and family members who are also hiring. So if you're able to put your best foot forward, they more than likely are going to be willing to provide recommendations for you elsewhere. I could not speak more highly of temporary work. I highly, highly encourage it. All right, let's talk about money. The taboo topic that is normally off the table is on the table right now. So, desired compensation. We have 80% of students that were still unemployed in February. And that's exactly what this data is looking at. Of those people who are unemployed, what compensation expectations do they have? So you can see on here that almost 30% of the class of 2022 expect to earn $51,000 to $60,000 after they graduate. And 20% expect to earn $61,000 to $70,000 after they graduate. That's the majority. The majority expect to earn $51,000 to $70,000 when they graduate. Now, I am here hopefully not to bust bubbles, but to help again balance expectations with reality. These numbers are high, and compensation will vary based on the role that you're getting into. It will vary based on your level of education and your type of education. Maybe you went to school for liberal arts like me, English and Spanish. I wasn't making a ton of money when I graduated, but that also is par for the course for that type of major, right? If perhaps you want to get into investment banking or private equity or other fields, salaries vary based on the type of role you're getting into and the industry you are getting into. And so what I would say is, if you're able to, don't make compensation the number one factor, because then you'll be pigeonholed potentially into only certain types of roles and only certain types of companies that you might not enjoy. Compensation should be a factor because we all need to live and we want to make enough money to live a good life, but don't let it be the only factor. Make a list of what's important to you about the organization or the role that you want to step into after you graduate. I wanted to work for a small to mid-sized organization because I went to a small school and I liked knowing everyone. I liked walking around my college campus and talking to people. I liked that it allowed me to be involved in a lot of different clubs and activities. I was a student athlete. I was editor of the school newspaper. I was in a sorority, right? And the list goes on and on. And I thought to myself, when I go to a business, when I graduate, I want to have a similar feel. I want it to be familial. I want it to be communal. I want to know people. And I want to be able to roll up my sleeves and dig into the business and contribute right away. And then I want to grow my career. I want to stay at a place. I want to be able to have autonomy and responsibility so that hopefully I can grow quickly and get promoted. That was my short list. I didn't care what I was doing. I cared what type of company I worked for and that they were going to invest in me and train me so that I could continue to grow and really expand my skill sets. So make your short list about what's important to you. And then research compensation for your field, for your function, for your industry, and make sure that your expectations are realistic. Glassdoor has a tool that you can use. Career Builder has a tool. Indeed, there are tools everywhere at your fingertips. So let your fingers do the walking and do a little bit of salary research, okay? And like I mentioned, don't just dismiss opportunities because they're not at your desired compensation. Maybe what's listed on the job description isn't actually what they're willing to pay. Maybe they'll pay a little bit more, a little bit less based on level of experience, number of internships, number of jobs that you had during college. There's a myriad of factors that play into compensation. So I will say these numbers on the screen by and large are a little bit higher than we've seen in years past, and also higher than what a lot of companies are paying as starting salaries. Now, that's not to say, like I said, that students don't get these. Some do, but just make sure your expectations are realistic and make sure you're also considering other factors that are really important to you. So like I mentioned, growth was really important to me. And we heard this year from the class of 2022 that growth is also important to them. 40% want to earn their first promotion within 1 year on the job. 1 year, that's really fast. But that means to me that these students are hungry, that they believe that they're willing to work hard to earn that promotion, and that they want to dive in and roll their sleeves up and really contribute to a company to be able to earn a promotion. So if opportunity for growth and upward mobility is important to you, you have to make sure that you're vetting organizations to ensure that that is available for you. How do you do that? Well, again, you let your fingers do the walking. Before an interview, maybe even before you apply for a job, go look at the company on LinkedIn. Then look at the employees. Then look at their tenure. How many people have been there 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 plus years? Are they the majority or the minority? Does it look like there's mostly new people there, or does it look like people are homegrown and that company probably has a really strong training and development program and believes in promoting from within? Then, if you're lucky enough to get an interview, make sure you talk to people about that. Can you tell me about your career path at XYZ company? I looked on your LinkedIn and it looks like you've been promoted 5 times in 5 years. What does that look like? What do you attribute that to? Is that normal, or are you just a rock star, right? It's okay to butter people up because you want to better understand what makes someone stay at a company. And if you see career progression, ask about it. Now, perhaps you don't see career progression in your research. It's not mentioned anywhere on the company website. It's not anywhere on social media. You can't find it on LinkedIn profiles. You can say, tell me what upward mobility looks like at this organization. Can you share with me how you set your employees up for success in terms of getting promoted, expanding their skill set? Do you have continuing education classes that employees can take advantage of? Can you tell me about that? I'm really hungry and I'm really motivated and I want to continue learning. Can you tell me more about that? Those are great questions to ask in an interview. So we also ask students, okay, we understand your compensation expectations. We understand what motivates you, upward mobility, opportunity for growth, but tell us more about the type of company you want to work for and what's important specifically about that organization. And overwhelmingly, our students ranked the top 3 things that they're looking for in a company as the organizational culture. They want to know what it feels like to work there. They want to know about the benefits that the company offers, and they want to know about where the company is located. Now, all of these, there's a lot of nuggets that go into them. So we're going to peel back the onion a little bit and talk about each one of these. Company culture, the number one thing that the class of 2022 is looking for, that they're evaluating in prospective companies. Now, I want to be very clear. Culture and perks are 2 extremely different things. Culture is how you feel when you walk into an office, how you feel after you leave an interview with an employee. It's the intangible feelings created by tangible actions, right? It's how you feel after something happens. Perks are things. Perks are cool chairs in the interview rooms. Perks are craft beer in a fridge. Perks are a really sexy Nespresso machine that you can have access to whenever you want, and catered lunches. Now, don't get me wrong, those things sound amazing. Everybody loves an espresso machine, but that's not what keeps people at an organization. What keeps people at an organization is culture, is how they feel when they're interacting with their coworkers. So you have to dig into what's the company culture like. Great questions to ask in an interview, especially if you're not going on site right now for interviews. How do you get at the company culture? Because you can feel it virtually through the screen, and you will feel it if you get the job offer. But you can say, tell me more about the organizational culture. I see that you've been there 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. What's kept you at this company for so long? Can you tell me about how employees support one another? Right? All great questions to get at the culture of the organization and whether it's going to be right for you. Because let's be very clear. LaSalle Network is a great place to work according to Inc. magazine and Fortune and Forbes and Glassdoor and all of these great publications and outlets. But we are not a great place to work for everyone. Our culture is not right for everyone. It's right for the people who thrive in it and succeed, but it's not right for everyone. And so you need to understand the type of environment that you succeed in, and then look for that in the companies that you're applying and ask questions about that. So again, like I mentioned, there's so many questions that you can ask to get at the organizational culture. How have you invested in employee engagement in the last year? What's the team dynamic like? And how do new people fit in? How are new people trained? How has your business changed over the course of the pandemic? All great questions to ask. Right? We already talked about perks. I don't need to necessarily beat a dead horse here, but other things are remote work and flexible hours. Those tend to be a little bit leaning towards perks, but also a little bit about benefits. Now, I think we'll get into flexible and remote work in just a minute, but what we found is that this class, these students graduating this year, the class of 2022, is interested in camaraderie and connection. And while flexibility is really nice and remote work is really nice, what they want is to be with their coworkers. They don't want to be locked up at home for another 2 years. They want to pull up a chair and be together with their peers, working side by side, rolling up their sleeves on projects. And so, yes, these are great. And if they're important to you, you need to vocalize that in the interview process. But please know that remote work, flexible hours, free lunches, those are perks. Those are not culture. So let's talk about benefits. Benefits was the number 2 thing that the class of 2022 is looking for, which makes a ton of sense because we went through the past 2 years of a pandemic, and some of us had great insurance and others of us didn't. But you want to know how am I going to be able to support myself, both financially, but also from a health perspective. And so grads are looking for strong medical insurance, a 401k match, dental insurance, unlimited paid time off, which is both a perk and a benefit. But these are some of the benefits that the class of 2022 said are really important to them. So think about it. Are they important to you? If so, you should ask about them in the interview. If not, don't worry about it. See what the company comes back with in terms of benefits, and then go through it with a fine-tooth comb and make sure they meet your needs. And then remote work. I jumped the gun on this a little bit because this was one of the most shocking data points for me. But only 11% of the class of 2022 wanted to work remotely 100% of the time. 11%. That's nothing. This class wants to be together. They want to be on site. Maybe not 5 days a week, but they'd like to be on site learning from their managers, learning from their peers. And again, if that's important to you, you should talk about it. Most organizations in some shape or form have gone back to the office. A lot have hybrid environments where you're in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and that seems to work great. Some are back, and some industries have always been back 5 days a week. They never left, right? So you just need to figure out what's important to you and what do I like. And it might be a little bit of trial and error. But this was shocking for me that so many people want to be back together. Now, we also ask students, what are your main concerns as you graduate? Because all of us have a little bit of imposter syndrome just in the back of our head. And there's a lot of uncertainty when you're graduating. Uncertainty around where you're going to live, how much you're going to earn. Am I going to like this job? Am I going to like these people? Kind of similar to college, when you go to college and you don't know anyone that you're going to school with. And so what we heard overwhelmingly from our survey is that the class of 2022 is concerned about their lack of experience. They're concerned that they don't have the skills to bring to the table to really set themselves up for success in their first role. They're concerned about compensation. How much money am I going to make? Is it going to be enough to have my own place, move out of my parents' house, take the trips, or do the things that I'd like to do, especially with inflation continuing to climb? And then lastly, they were concerned about a sense of belonging. Now, this correlates for me. Only 11% said they wanted to work remotely full-time. And the rest said, I'd like to be on site in some capacity, whether it's 1 to 5 days a week, because I want to feel like I belong within an organization. I had 2 years living in isolation and taking classes by myself and living by myself and being in this little microcosm. I want to feel connected to my coworkers. And so if these are things that you're concerned about, there's a lot of questions that you can get into during the interview process and research that you can do ahead of time to help alleviate these. Sense of belonging. Ask questions during the interview process. How does your company onboard employees? How do they get them trained and up to speed, right? Sense of belonging, lack of experience. What's the team dynamic like? How do we work together? Do we partner together on projects? Do you guys ever do things outside of work together? Right? All great questions to get at. Sense of belonging and lack of experience. So we also said, okay, we understand your concerns. Now tell us a little bit more about where you feel underprepared, which hopefully we've addressed some of these during the webinar. But students overwhelmingly said, I feel underprepared in my technical skills. So it doesn't have to be that they're entering a tech field, but maybe they're a little bit nervous about different softwares that they might be using at the company. Maybe they're concerned about their ability to utilize the equipment that they're given. It could be a myriad of different things. They feel underprepared about entering the job market and what to expect, which hopefully we've talked about some of that today. And they're concerned or underprepared for their interview skills, which we'll get into in just a minute. So I'm going to address all 3 areas because perhaps you are thinking, yes, I feel underprepared in 1, 2, 3 of these areas as well. So there are some common skills, according to Indeed, that are most needed for entry-level positions. And these 3 are them: data and analytics, communication, and problem solving. Okay? It is not too late just because you graduate in a day, a week, a month, a year, however long, it is not too late to continue to build your skills. You should be a lifelong learner. That is how you grow. That is how you continue to keep your mind sharp and stay ahead of the game, quite frankly. And so even though you're graduating, your learning is not complete. There are free classes that you can take at different colleges and universities. The internet is incredible. There are so many offerings that are, again, free, and other offerings that you can pay for that you can take advantage of to improve your communication, to better problem solve, to improve your analytical skills. Don't be shy about vocalizing what you need. Also know that the company you're entering into might have training programs around all of these areas. Okay, so all is not lost. You can practice and hone all of these. This is also a plug for those internships or part-time or temporary positions that will allow you to practice all of these skills and more. So whatever you feel underprepared in, it will help you sharpen those skills and get better. Okay, so expectations around the job market. We've talked a little bit about this already. You are entering the market at such a good time, okay? But you need to think about your salary expectations, which we discussed already, right? What are you looking for? Why are you looking for that? How did you get to that number? Have you done your salary homework? Have you talked to people in your field? Is that a hard and fast number? You have to have that to be able to live how you want to live, or are there other factors that come into play? And then you should have a target list of companies. I didn't when I graduated. I was extremely open. I just knew types of roles that I wanted to get into and company size. but spend a little bit of time really thinking about it. And then again, let those fingers do the walking, do your research, do your homework on different organizations. If you know that opportunity for growth is important, and you know that having a training program is really important, and you know that flexibility to travel and work from wherever is important, use that as your guide. And if specifically too, if you have a location in mind, I want to be in Chicago, Philly, DC, wherever, start with that search and find a short list of companies and then research them. Especially as you're coming to the close of your senior year, you might have a little bit more time. And what better way to invest in yourself than to make sure that your job search is targeted and that you're prepared for all of your interviews. Which, speaking of, don't shortchange yourself. Do not cram for an interview like you crammed for your exams this semester, okay? Take some time, make sure you are prepared. Utilize career services to do mock interviews. That is so important. If you didn't, do it with your roommate, do it with your mother, brother, sister, brother. It doesn't matter, but you have to practice. There are generic questions that every interviewer will ask you. Tell me about yourself. Practice that one. If you practice no other question, please practice that one and have a really strong elevator pitch to set you up for success. Why do you want this job? Why are you interested in this company? There are common questions that get asked again and again and again. Practice your response to those, okay? Research the company, research the industry, and research the person or people you are meeting. And I gotta tell you, you have to go beyond the company's own propaganda. It is not enough to go on the organization's website and to say, okay, I read their mission statement and what they stand for, and I read what it's like to work for them, and I'm fully prepared for this interview. Let me tell you, that is not the case. You need to vet other sources too. It's like going to Wikipedia for a paper and only citing that. In college, my professors would give us an F if we did that. To go beyond the company's own propaganda and really uncover what they're all about and what people are saying about them. So yes, look at their website, look at their social media channels. Absolutely. That should be the basic, the foundation that you do. But then do a Google search. Then look up their employees on LinkedIn. Then check out Glassdoor. There's so many different ways that you can fully vet this organization to make sure that A, you're prepared, you have really strong questions and a really strong knowledge of the company and the industry. But like I said, it will help you put your best foot forward and ask really compelling questions. And if there's anything that you find in your interview preparation that causes a red flag, causes those antennas to go up, ask about it tactfully, but ask about it in the interview process. You know, I noticed there's a lot of negative Glassdoor reviews. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? You know, I read that this is a work hard, play hard environment. What does that mean? Tell me more about that. Leverage your preparation during the interview to really make yourself stand out. Okay, now some great questions to ask. I'm not going to read these. I'm going to let you guys read them. And then I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite questions that I get. All right, so my favorite question that I get from candidates is, do you have any hesitations about my background? Okay, chew on that one for a second. Do you have any hesitations about my background? Why do I love this question? Well, it allows the candidate to overcome any objections that the hiring manager might have right there in the moment. So for example, someone might say, do you have any hesitations about my background, to close out the interview? And the hiring manager says, well, actually, yeah, SPSS is required for this role, and you don't have any of it, any knowledge of SPSS, you've never taken a class in it. It allows you to overcome that objection right there in the moment. Now, the right answer might be, you're absolutely right. I have no knowledge of SPSS, but let me tell you about the fact that I'm a fast learner. And let me tell you how I taught myself Spanish and went to Spain and completely learned it all by myself, living with a host family that didn't speak English. Let me tell you how I learned new skills that I had no knowledge of before. Or perhaps they address an objection during the interview and they say, yeah, I do have a hesitation about X, Y, Z. You might say, thank you for your feedback. Can I circle back with you on that? Because you might not have a response or a way to overcome something in the moment, and that's okay. That is what follow-up thank you notes and emails are for. Use that time to address what might be their concerns. Okay, that is a great question to ask in the interview. And then on the right-hand side, questions to prepare for. So if you were sitting earlier thinking to yourself, I don't know what questions that I might get asked in an interview. I've heard about these behavioral questions and the STAR response and all of these things. This is a short list, and I highly recommend you practice. It doesn't matter if you're practicing by yourself in front of your bathroom mirror or if you're practicing with somebody. You just need to practice responding to some of these questions, sounding confident, articulate. You're not rambling on and on. Okay, interview etiquette. This is a big one for me. Now, all hiring managers are different, but when I hire for my team, there's certain things that I expect. I expect candidates to shake my hand when they come in to interview with me. Now, granted, that took a pause during the pandemic, but that's back. And if people are comfortable with that, that's a great way to put your best foot forward at the very start of the meeting. I expect people to have questions. You don't have questions after you just met with me for 30 minutes and hopefully conducted research ahead of meeting with me, and you want this job, or you're not gonna be curious on the job. You're not gonna ask questions on the job. So always, always, always have questions prepared, and then ask those same questions to every person you meet. A, it makes your life a little bit easier, but B, you can look at consistency of responses. I met with Sally, Joe, and James, and they all answered this question differently, which is odd to me. There doesn't seem to be consistency. I asked about the training program, and one person said there isn't one, and one person said he went through a mentor development program. That's something you want to get to the bottom of and figure out, is there one that you can take advantage of, or is there really not, or it's only for select people? Okay, so have questions, ask questions. But then as you're closing the interview, you can ask, do you have any hesitations about my background? And then thank the person for their time. Whether it was via Zoom, whether it was 5 minutes or 25 minutes, that person gave you their time to tell you more about the organization and to learn more about your background. So thank them for their time and set expectations for follow-up. I really appreciated the time meeting with you today, and I'm even more excited about this role. What's the timeline for hire? When should I expect to hear from you? Do you want me to follow back up? If so, when? Right? Great questions to ask. Oh, we're not hiring for 6 weeks, or we are in final stages, final round interviews. You can expect to hear from us next week. Great, thank you so much. Do you want me to follow back up? Nope, you'll hear from us. Okay. Get the contact information of the person you meet, if only to be able to send a thank you note after the interview. But also, if you don't hear back in 2 weeks when you expect to hear back, reach out to them and say, I'm really, really interested in this company, and I know I could contribute right away. Just wanted to check in on how the interview process is going. Hopefully I'm still a contender. Those are strong emails and shows you're passionate and you're aggressive and you want the role. Okay. Now, thank you notes. I was sitting around a table with all of our management team today, and every single one told me that they haven't been getting thank you notes from candidates that they've been interviewing. All entry-level candidates, no manager-level candidates, all students who are graduating from college this year, they haven't received any thank you notes. Now, old school, you'd handwrite your thank you notes. However, in this virtual world, it is so easy to send an email. and yet they still are not receiving thank you notes. So let me tell you, if you want to differentiate yourself, send a follow-up thank you note. Now you want to get really good and put yourself at the top of the pack of all the people that they've interviewed. Customize it. Spend 20 minutes reflecting on the interview and thinking about the connection points that you had with the hiring manager. And by connection points, I mean commonalities. Did you talk personal at all, or did you strictly talk business? Do you know that they played lacrosse in college too, or they're also planning a trip to Florida this summer? Use those personal nuggets, those commonalities, those connections, and incorporate them into your thank you note. And then sell yourself. Take what you learned in the interview. These are the 5 skills you need to be successful in this role. This is the type of person that succeeds and achieves within our organization. Take those nuggets and incorporate them into your thank you note. Now, this takes time. You can't just dash off a Susie, so great meeting with you. Can't wait to hear from you. Let me tell you, that ain't gonna cut it. That is not gonna allow you to rise to the top of the heap. Okay, so spend some time and craft a well-written thank you note. All right, so we will wrap it up here. Hopefully this was beneficial. Hopefully the data was informational. Perhaps it aligned to what you're looking for and what you agree with if you're graduating this year, and perhaps it didn't. And all of that is okay. Now you can download the full report by scanning this QR code. And I would highly recommend that if you liked this content, you follow us on our different social channels, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, Facebook, all at LaSalle Network. Again, the QR code is right there for you to scan and download a full copy of the report, because there's a lot of data that we didn't even hit on. So if you are graduating this year, I wish you nothing but the best of luck. I hope that you find the type of role and the type of organization that you're looking for. Thanks so much for your time.